Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on the Payroll Assistant in Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Alice and I'm going to be delivering today's webinar. I'm also joined by my colleague Duncan in the background who's going to be answering your questions in the Q&A throughout the session as well. And a little look at what we've got planned for the session today too. So I'm going to begin with an introduction. So what is the Payroll Assistant? Followed by the main section of the webinar, so all about the assistant in terms of running it and how to check the results and things which are flagged by the payroll assistant as well. And then just to end on a little bit of fun, I have put together a little quiz just to test your knowledge on the payroll assistant and kind of what we've covered throughout the webinar too. And then as always, we will have some time to finish on some further support and more time to continue answering your questions too. But let's get started with that introduction then. So as I said, the first section, it's going to be a bit of an overview on the payroll assistant. And this is a feature in Sage 50 Payroll, which you can use to get advanced warning of a variety of changes to your employee's circumstances. It's there to help you plan payroll more efficiently, but also just to make sure that certain aspects of your employee's details and things are correct, which will help you get things right first time and also reduce the need for corrections too. The payroll assistant does allow you to run what's called a health check on a variety of areas in payroll. So this includes employment procedures. So this could be right to work information, whether an employee has or is reaching state pension age soon, the qualifying period for Freeport employees or investment zone employees, and also things like checking the minimum wage flag is set for your employees if that's necessary. You can also check details on absences. So this is your statutory absences, so things like statutory maternity pay, paternity pay. With this, you can check whether someone is on leave, due to go on leave soon, or due to return to work soon as well. You've also got some checks on rates of pay, so this could be things on apprenticeship details and dates with that, apprenticeship rates, etc. And there is also a section as well on inactivity. So this could be things like pay elements which are no longer in use, attachment of earnings orders which aren't active anymore or are due to end soon, company loans being fully repaid, as well as a couple of other things as well. So you will see a few of these in action when we go to the demos in the next section. But the payroll assistant, it used to only be available in Payroll Professional, so that variant of Payroll. So depending on your license and subscription details, Payroll Assistant might be completely new to you since the update to version 31, and that's because it is now available in all variants of Sage 50 Payroll. So for those of you who used to have the health check option above your employee list, that has now been replaced with this feature, the Payroll Assistant, which has more functionality and therefore more benefit to you as well. So you will see the icon above your employee list. That was a bit of an overview of the Payroll Assistant. I do just want to dive straight into using it and what that looks like. And ideally, this is going to be used before you actually run payroll. So you can run it up to your process date. You can also run it for the next few periods just to get a bit of a heads up on anything that's upcoming too. And a couple of places that you can run it from in the programme. But first of all, in order to run the payroll assistant, you will need to highlight your employees as required. So whether you want to check everyone, a department at a time, or a pay frequency at a time, you will just select those as necessary. And then either from the toolbar above your employee list, you've got the option to click the payroll assistant, or from the help menu as well, you do have the option in there too. So a few places that you can run it from, but they're going to come up with the same window. And we're actually just going to dive straight into the demo and go ahead and run the payroll assistant. So I'm currently logged into my monthly payroll and I've already processed and updated tax month 1. So you can see last updated and last FPS date there is the 30th of April. Apart from one employee who I've got on hold currently, and then I've also got a leaver there as well. So their dates are looking a little bit different. But I want to run the assistant ahead of May's pay run just to see if everything's as it should be and if there is anything that I need to be aware of prior to processing. Maybe there's a couple of things I need to change. So just as a piece of best practice, I have actually already set my process date to my May pay date, which is 31st of May. So I would advise setting your process date as appropriate before you run the payroll assistant. Now, next thing would just be to select the employees that you want to be included in the checks. So little tip, come over to the outline And in here, you'll have any groups that you've set up. I've also got pay frequencies and departments and things in here, depending on how your criteria settings are set up. So if you do want to do it for a department at a time, if you wanted to do service, for example, I would just come in here and highlight those service employees and then be able to run the payroll assistant for them. Same thing with other groups and things too. Or for me, I'm actually just going to do all employees. So I'll go back to that section and then just make sure that I've highlighted everyone. From here, it's going to be actually a case of just running the payroll assistant. So either from the help menu and payroll assistant, or just from the toolbar, I'll click on the option there. And this comes up with the kind of main payroll assistant window for you. So this is what you'll see when you open it. Very simple process to use as well. So firstly, at the top, it's a case of choosing the reference date of the health check. This date could be your next pay date. It could be a few periods into the future. It's whatever day you want it to be, really. And as you can see, it does default to your process date too. So that's another reason why it's a good habit, a good reason just to get into the habit of setting your process date correctly when you're doing tasks like this. Just in case you forget to check that date, for example, it is already set to an appropriate date. You put your process date. But basically, any date that you put in here, payroll is going to carry out these checks up to this reference date. So the further into the future that you choose, just bear in mind there will likely be more results for you to look through. I'm going to leave that as my process date for now. Next, it's going to be a case of selecting whether you'd like to run the check for all of your employees or those of the employees that you've selected. So if you have selected a group or a department, just make sure that you change that to only include the people that you've selected. But for all employees, which I'll be doing, I'll just select the one on the left here. And after this, it's going to be a case of using these tick boxes in the main part of the screen to determine what the payroll assistant is checking. So they are broken down into different sections. Let's see, we do have little collapsible sections with those 4 kind of main sections that I mentioned earlier. So you've got inactivity, you've got absences, rates of pay, and employment procedures as well. You've got the option to kind of multi-select everything in the sections, as well as something to select all. So if you wanted to select everything on this list, just a quick way to do that at the top as well. Now, I have already set up these tick boxes and I've left most things highlighted, but I have got rid of a few which aren't relevant to me, just to make sure that the checks results aren't too full of information that I don't want. But I've still got quite a few things selected. So I've got checking for people reaching state pension age, for example, apprenticeship details. I've also got all of the absence options too. I know I've got a couple of people on leave or due to go on leave, so I just want to get a bit more information on those. And then also all of the inactivity options too. So I do want to check if there's anything not in use or any attachment of earnings and things coming to an end. As always, you do have the option of a help option just in the bottom if you do need that, which will bring up some articles on the payroll assistant, which I've actually linked on the slides. But other than that, once you're happy with everything in here, you're just going to go ahead and click check. So this is going to go through and provide a check on the data up to that reference date that you put in. And this is where you'll be able to check what it's kind of searched for and what it's identified for you. So as you can see, 4 different tabs along the top here for the results, and they're actually organized by priority level. So we've got search results, requires attention, advisory, and information. And they pretty much mean what they say, to be honest. So search results, this first one is showing me information on things like absence and minimum wage bands. So first employee here, I can see that it's just reminding me that employee number 4 is away on maternity leave at the moment. So they are currently in a period of absence for SMP. It's also letting me know that employee number 9 is due to start a period of absence for SPP and then actually due to return to work shortly after. So they're taking their 2nd week of paternity in May, and I get kind of information on that. And then lastly in this tab, I do have a bit of a heads up that employee number 10 will be changing minimum wage band as of the 6th of May 2025, and that's due to their birthday. I believe this employee is actually turning 21, so I will need to just double check their pay this month and increase that if necessary. Next tab here, I've got requires attention. So these are issues that will likely cause mistakes in your pay run, or in very rare circumstances, they can even cause your submissions to HMRC to fail. It does just depend on what the issues are. But these are things that you will have to make a difference to and you will have to change and kind of correct ahead of processing payroll. So this one is due to employee number 10's minimum wage band changing, as I mentioned before. So they are changing, they are turning 21. And as a result, the national insurance category is now incorrect, and that does need to be changed before I process payroll. So a very important one for me to be aware of. The next tab here I've got is advisory. So we've got 5 in here. And these should be investigated before you process, just in case they do affect payroll processing. I've got some information just advising me to check the criteria option, just in case anyone is excluded from my employee list. So for example, if you've got people on hold or on holiday excluded from the list, you don't want to kind of miss those out of the pay run. So just a reminder on that. But I do also have some information on 2 of my newer employees. So employee number 12, they currently have the week 1, month 1 flag set. So just need to kind of double check that if necessary and review that. They're actually also on a temporary national insurance number, as we can see at the bottom. So I will need to get that sorted as soon as possible. And notice against this one, I do have a more information option. So if I do want to kind of get more information on next steps and what to do in this scenario, it does have more information for me. And then both of these options in the middle, these results, both of my newer employees, I'm actually waiting to find out what their email address is for the online services. So it does flag this as incomplete contact details, just to make me aware of that and kind of get it sorted as soon as I can. And that will fix that issue for me there. Last tab, this one is just information. So this is just letting me know a couple of things that I might need to be aware of for upcoming pay runs. This one's actually just telling me that I need to back up my data soon. So I haven't taken a backup since the 30th of April, 2025. So kind of when I get the chance to next, or if it made any changes. So for example, once I make the changes to these issues that have been identified, definitely a good idea to take a backup at that point, just to make sure my data is secure there. So that's kind of the main part of the window there and kind of checking those search results in order of priority. A couple more things at the bottom though. So if you before you make those changes, it might be a good idea to kind of print the information in here, especially if you've got a lot of things on a particular tab. So in advisory, for example, I've got 5 things to be aware of. You might have more. Really good option here is to print. I've actually got that set to print to PDF. So if I just clicked print there, that would come up with something that looks a little bit like this. It's going to print the current tab that you're looking at, and that's just going to be really, really good to use as reference. So if you've got a lot of employees and a lot of changes and things that you need to make, use this as reference when you're making those amendments, just to make sure that you've fixed everything ahead of your pay run. And as I say, this will print the current tab that you're looking at. And then similar kind of idea as well, you've got the send to Excel options if you would prefer. Send to Excel will again just send the current information in the tab that you're looking at across to Excel for you to use as reference or save if you need to as well. But once you're happy with everything in here, it's just going to be a case of closing the assistant down and working through those flagged issues, especially if they were in the requires attention or advisory tabs. You do want to make sure that you've done those before your next pay run to avoid any mistakes in your pay run, and especially in your submissions to HMRC, and just avoid you having to go back and make corrections too. Now, something else I do want to remind you of at this point is that you can run the assistant for a reference date in the future if you wanted as well. So I just ran it for my process date, but if we go back to the payroll assistant, this time I'm just going to choose a different reference date. Let's say we'll just do 3 months into the future actually, just to get a bit of a heads up of anything that's coming up. So 31st of August. I'll leave that to all available employees. Of course, do select anyone that you need to. And make sure you've checked what you're going to be checking here with these tick boxes in the middle. And then again, just go ahead and click check. So this is now using that reference date of the 31st of August. So we'll likely come up with more information as it's searching a kind of bigger period of time. Mostly the same, but we can see a couple of changes in here. So search results, we do have more results in here. Employee number 1, for example, they're actually due to start a period of absence for SMP, and that is at the start of July. We've also got information on employee number 3. So they have an attachment of earnings order, and that's due to end at the end of June. So I've got plenty of notice for that and kind of, in advance of those pay runs. Also employee number 4. So remember last time we did get notified that they're currently on absence for SMP, but they're due to return to work kind of middle to end of August. So I've got that kind of heads up for them too. So this will just help you get kind of organised for any upcoming pay runs, again, up to whatever date that you would prefer. So the check will check up to that reference date that you've selected. And then again, same options in the bottom left to print or send to Excel if you do need to keep a record of this and kind of use it as reference for when you're making any changes too. But that was running the payroll assistant. So that's about all there is to it, to be honest, but I do want to have a little bit of a recap of what we did there. So first of all, we selected the relevant employees, whether that was a group or a department, or in my case, everyone. We then clicked on the payroll assistant option from our toolbar. You do have the option of clicking from help as well, of course, and that came up with this window. First thing at the top is to enter the reference date. So this is the date that payroll will check up to. This could be a next pay date, so that would be a process date, or it could be a date further into the future. Just bear in mind, of course, depending on the date, more information will come up. But also the payroll assistant does default to whatever your process date is set to. So good idea just to get your process date set correctly before you go ahead and do this task. You're then going to select whether the checks are carried out on all of your available employees, so everyone kind of in view, or just the employees that you've selected. So if it is a group at a time or a department at a time, just make sure you select that appropriately. And then using that main part of the screen and those tick boxes, you're going to select which checks are carried out from the options listed. They are kind of organised into 4 different sections as well. Of course, you've got the employment procedures, you've got rates of pay, you've got absences, and you've got inactivity as well. So after this, just click check at the bottom, and that is when the payroll is going to come up with those checks, and it's going to organise those by priority level as well. So you're going to be able to view the checks that have been flagged by the health check, again by priority level. So you're able to check for any issues or upcoming information that you might need to action prior to processing your next pay run. So first thing is search results. So this is where you'll be able to see any information. In my case, that was on things like absences, so maternity or paternity leave, but also employees' minimum wage bands changing. In my case, if somebody had a birthday and turned 21. Next tab is requires attention. So this is a really, really important tab to check. Some of these issues could and probably will likely cause your payroll and submissions to HMRC to be incorrect and therefore require corrections. So do check these results. You will very likely need to make amendments on these ones before your next pay run. So definitely prioritise those. You've then got advisory. So these aren't quite as high priority as the previous section, but definitely still need to be looked into. So for me, this was information about my newer employees with missing contact information. So just something for me to be aware of in case that did affect things like online pay slips, not being able to be uploaded for them, for example. It also showed me that one of my employees was on a temporary national insurance number, so that does need to be sorted as soon as possible. And that option actually did come up with more information for me, so a little bit more on the kind of next steps to get that one sorted. And then last tab is information. So this tab is just basically non-urgent information, so such as a reminder to take a backup. The information in here likely doesn't impact your employees directly, but yeah, nonetheless, it is still very, very important to check all of these tabs and yeah, make any changes as necessary. With each of the tabs, do remember you've got the option to print or send to Excel as well, especially if you've got a lot of employees that you've performed the health check on and a lot of kind of changes that you need to make. It just means that you've got something to use as reference as you're going through and making those changes. Make sure that you've kind of covered everything off before you go ahead and process payroll. And I have included more information on checking your employees using the payroll assistant at the bottom of the slides. But just try to include a couple of kind of common examples there, lots of things that you can check with the payroll assistant as you've seen. And this feature can make a huge difference in spotting mistakes before they happen and minimizing any corrections that you need to do as well, as long as you're kind of checking all of this in advance. So I would advise incorporating this into any pre-payroll tasks or checks that you might have. Definitely want to add to that list there. But that is it for the demos. And before we move on to our payroll assistant short quiz, I do want to just run a quick poll and ask you all whether you're planning on using the payroll assistant going forward, whether this is a feature that you want to be using. So I'm just launching a poll on your screen now. I'll leave it open for about a minute or so. Just kind of curious to see what you all think. And I will share the results with you afterwards as well, just so you can see as well. So yes, do you plan on using the payroll assistant going forward? No, you don't plan on using it, or you were already using it and then will continue to do so. Great, I can see those results coming in a little bit longer on that before I close it. Great, about 10 more seconds or so. Looks like most people have voted now actually. Perfect, I'll close that down and share those results with you. Great, so overwhelmingly 92% of people are saying yes, they plan on using the payroll assistant going forward, so that is great. 1% said no, you don't plan on using the payroll assistant, and 7% have said you are already using it and will continue to do so. So that's, yeah, great news. Don't forget as well, you will receive a recording of this webinar, so if you do want to rewatch any of the demos and things, kind of how to go about using it, you do have that further support available, and that will be coming to your email probably sometime this afternoon. Well, thank you very much for participating in that poll. But again, it is now time to move on to our last section, which is our short quiz. I do have 4 questions for you all, just kind of testing your knowledge on what I've talked about during the webinar. You have already had some practice there answering a poll, but you will be able to just select your answer or answers when the poll comes up and click submit. And you'll have around a minute or so to answer each question. And then after each question, I'm going to reveal the results to the poll and, of course, the correct answer to go along with it as well. So let me just grab the questions. Perfect. So question number 1, this is coming your way now. And that should be coming up on your screen. So question number 1 is, where can you access the payroll assistant option in Sage 50 Payroll? Select all that apply. So little tip, this one does have multiple answers. So where can you access the payroll assistant option in Sage 50 Payroll? Select all that apply. Is it from the help menu, from the toolbar, from employee tasks, or from company tasks? Where can you access the payroll assistant option in Sage 50 Payroll? About 15 more seconds on that one. And then I will close that down and share the results with you. Great, most people have voted now. Thank you very much for that. So I will close the poll and share those results. Yeah, so 83% of you said from the help menu, 96% of you said from the toolbar. So those were the 2 correct answers. Well done to those of you who've said that. You do have the 2 options there, so whichever you would prefer for that. They're both going to bring up the same window, but they're both ways that you can access the payroll assistant. So well done to those of you who selected those. Great, so on to question number 2. And this one is a true or false. Just launching that now. So question number 2, true or false? The payroll assistant performs a health check up to your current process date. Is that true or is it false? The payroll assistant performs a health check up to your current process date. True or false? Great, I can see those answers coming through now. May or may not have tried to catch you out with this one, so true or false? The payroll assistant performs a health check up to your current process date. Great. Just about to close that one down. Fantastic, and I will close that now and share those results with you. Quite close on this one, but yeah, the answer is actually false. So well done to the 56% of you who said that. You can specify a reference date and it checks up to that. So it could be your process date. It does default to your process date, but ultimately it's going to perform that check up to whatever your date you put in there. So it could be your process date, but it could be, you know, months into the future. It just depends on what you prefer there. So yes, question number 2, that is false. So well done to those of you who said that. Fabulous. So on to question number 3. Just launching that now. Fab. So question number 3, this is which of the following options cannot be checked using the payroll assistant? Which of these options cannot be checked using the payroll assistant? So remember all of those different tick boxes in the main part of the payroll assistant screen. Which one of these do you not recall being there? Is it an employee due to start statutory leave? Pay elements not in use? An employee due to reach state pension age? Or an employee's online payslip hasn't been uploaded? Which of the following options cannot be checked using the payroll assistant? So just select your answer there and click submit. I'll leave it open about 5-10 more seconds. Great, and I'll close that down now. So an overwhelming amount of you said an employee's online payslip hasn't been uploaded, 85% of you. Couple more on the other answers too, but the correct answer was an employee's online payslip hasn't been uploaded. So you aren't able to check that using the payroll assistant. You are, however, able to check the rest of them. So an employee due to start statutory leave, whether that's maternity pay, paternity pay, and remember the pay element's not in use, that was in the inactivity section. And you are also able to check whether an employee has reached or is due to reach state pension age soon as well. So those 3 options are able to be checked in the payroll assistant. Fantastic. And on to the last question, question number 4 of our quiz. That's just coming onto your screen now. So question number 4. If an issue is in the requires attention tab, what does this mean? If an issue is in the requires attention tab, what does this mean? Does it mean that it's information helping you plan current or future pay runs? Does it mean that it should be investigated and corrected as soon as possible? You should call Sage Support and get them to fix it, or it doesn't impact your employee directly, so you can just ignore it. So if you have an issue in the requires attention tab, what does this mean? Great, about half of you voted. I'll leave that open a bit longer. And I'll go ahead and close that one down now and share those results. So yeah, 97% of you, well done. It should be investigated and corrected as soon as possible. Clues in the name of the tab there, but requires attention. That's probably the highest priority tab that you've got there in the payroll assistant. The results in here will likely cause mistakes in your pay run. They will need to be corrected before you go ahead and process payroll, just in case they do cause mistakes, and therefore more work for you having to do corrections and things as well. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Requires attention. Definitely take a look at those before you process your next pay run. So thank you very much for your participation there. Just a bit of fun to end the webinar and kind of test what you've learned throughout the session. But with that being said, that does bring us to the end of the content for the payroll assistant. Just enough time to quickly whiz through some further support with you as well, just before we kind of end the webinar. I do want to let you know of some upcoming webinars that we've got coming up. So this month in May, we do have the HMRC Secure Mailbox. So that's another option in payroll. Really, really good option there. And we've got Duncan going through that with you all tomorrow. On Thursday, we do have the Payroll Spring Clean webinar as well. We've got a repeat session for that one. We've also got Nominal Link coming up, so if you do want to know a bit more about that option, kind of posting your journals across to accounts, you've got the option there. Also attachment of earnings orders and mastering mistakes too. So lots coming up. We do have even more coming up in June as well, so be sure to click register now to read about everything that's we've got kind of going on, and of course secure your spot for the webinars too. We've also got the Sage Help Centre, so this is sage.co.uk/help. Here you'll be able to search the knowledge base, access support guides, demonstration videos. We've got a whole webinar section with recordings of our webinars as well. And should you need to get into contact with us, you do have the options to contact technical support, and yeah, just get in touch with us as well. And lastly, Sage University, so sageu.com. Here you're able to set up a free account and access different e-learning and bite-sized learning courses, as well as earning product certification too. It's a great way to expand your knowledge on Sage 50 Payroll, but also if you've got any other Sage products with us. It's not just Sage 50 Payroll that you can learn about, and again, that's completely free, and the courses that you can go on to on there are free as well, so really, really great option there. But that has brought us to the end of the webinar. So if you are leaving us now, just remember that you can download the handouts. So these are going to include all of the slides that we've gone through today. And feel free to copy and paste any of the Q&A if you have found any of those useful. You will be able to keep those for future reference. Just copy and paste them into something like a Word document as well. One last ask from me, you will see a short survey as you exit the webinars. If you do have just a moment to fill that out, we would really, really appreciate that. The feedback does go a long way. If you've got any comments and scores and things to leave us. This was a brand new session, so I would love to hear what you thought. But yeah, apart from that, that is it from me. I can still see there's a couple of questions there in the Q&A. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go on mute for a couple of moments just to help Duncan with those last questions, double check we've got everything sorted there. And then, yeah, I'll be back in a couple of moments just to say goodbye and kind of end the webinar. So yeah, I'll be on mute and I'll be back in a couple of moments. Hello everyone, that's just me back again. It looks like we've made it through all of those questions. So massive thank you to Duncan there for answering those throughout the webinar. Do keep an eye on your emails for a recording of the webinar coming through as well. You will be able to rewatch that as many times as you need to. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I would love to see you on another webinar very, very soon. And from me and Duncan, it is goodbye for now.